Wow, here we are again. The agony just keeps piling on for Celtic. We've now played 3 games in 2021. We've won none of them. We've scored just one goal from a set piece. It's our first goalless draw since April 2019. That was against Hibs. Today's was against Livingston. John, I keep asking the question, how bad can it get? Can it get worse than this?
No, it's a struggle at the moment. I thought, to be brutally honest, I thought Livingston deserved to win that game. And people will frame it as a second string Celtic team, and to a degree they're right. But that starting 11 wasn't a team full of
Yeah.
youngsters today. These aren't players who have been thrown at the deep end for the most part. I know some were played out of position. But there was still plenty of talent and leadership or supposed leadership supposed to be on that pack today, and they badly let themselves down again. Livingston were all over us in spells, and fully deserved their point and arguably deserved to win the game for me. So, yeah, a difficult day, another difficult game to discuss, but we'll get into it.
Plenty of practice of doing it this season, mate. But I think you're right. Livingston had the better of the game. They had the standout chance of the match was Efe Ambrose's header, which he had to score, finally making up for that one he missed for us in the Nou Camp. So appreciate that, Efe, but he really should have scored there. They had a number of other chances the last minute as well, the one that flew just past Hazard's post from the right back Devlin. I think it's a good point you make. I think it's a perfect point you make, that people will group this and the Hibs game together and say that Dubai was the consequence of Dubai was the last two results we've seen, and that's fair enough. I did it on Monday, but I think there's a separate point to be made as well, that team that we had out today, I won't go through it, but looking through it, there's not a player in that starting team today that doesn't have 15, 20 games at Celtic under their belt, with the exception of Turnbull and Sorrow, two players who are two of our better players at the moment. So the rest of that team should have been good enough to beat Livingston. I know it's a Livingston team that was on an 8-game winning run prior to today, but they should have been good to beat them, or at the very least have the better of them on the pitch. Livingston were the better team today. We just looked disjointed. There was no idea there. It's remarkable, isn't it? You kind of become immune to seeing this, but it's remarkable what's happened to our team over the last year.
Yeah, it's quite scary. And, even before kickoff, there were some strange decisions with the team today. I thought the decision to drop Stephen Welsh after Monday night's game was very harsh. I'm not saying Stephen Welsh is our long-term future at centre-back, but we at least need to give him a run. He's 20 years old and he's only played a handful of games. If we're not playing him in a game like today, then what are we doing? Shane Duffy's performance was abysmal. I know we've tried to be kind to Shane Duffy on this channel over the last couple of months because it's been a difficult time for him. But someone at Celtic needs to show leadership, I think, and just take him out of the team for good. Like, there's no point in playing Shane Duffy. There's no point in a lot of these players playing for Celtic at the moment. Neil Lennon's back on Sunday and Monday. What is the point in him coming back to Lennoxtown? I just don't see what the point is, frankly. Celtic need to move on and build for the future now. The season's done. We've been saying this for weeks now, Hamish. This isn't a situation where we know the league's done today. That happened weeks ago. So someone at Celtic needs to show leadership here. We need someone at the club to step up and show a bit of humility and understand what is actually happening here, rather than trying to deflect from the issues, which I feel like the club have been doing for far too long now, despite fans calling them out on it. So it's just very difficult to speak about, unfortunately.
That's what should happen, John. That's what would happen if we had proper Celtic-minded people in the board who weren't just looking out for their own interests and those of their pals. What I think will happen is that Neil Lennon will return to the Celtic fold on Monday or Tuesday. We'll get the same remarkable rubbish in the press prior to that game at Livingston. We will drop more points against Livingston, but I think the last couple of games will almost be excluded from Neil Lennon's January report we're still waiting on, because they will look at the fact Dubai has robbed us of these players, and again they will blame the Dubai trip, they will blame COVID once again, and I think Neil Lennon will come back in and he'll be given a chance. We may go on a wee run similar to what we did in December at some stage when we get some favourable fixtures, but you are just so obviously delaying the inevitable at this stage. Like, it is so far gone at this stage. The season is over. This Celtic team is on its knees. And I'm not talking about the team that played today. I'm talking about the first team that plays. It's so obvious that something needs to change. It's almost like it's past the point of even it being a relevant point. It's just so blindingly obvious today. You're right. We've tried to give Shane Duffy the benefit of the doubt. Absolutely incredible how poor he's been for us. But it's not just him. I think Tom Rogic, the last couple of games, a guy we both love, has been.
But what was he playing up front today? I mean, what was going on with that formation? What was going on with that tactical setup? I listened to Gavin Strachan before the game saying, Neil Lennon and John Kennedy had, been heavily involved throughout the week in trying to go through the training sessions and the setup today, and that they'd been trying a few things in training with the lack of strikers, but we were just totally lost in the final third today. We're really relying on players like Ralston and Frimpong to kind of do anything for us, and not much was created in the end. So Lord knows what they're actually working on at Livingston at the moment. I'd love to know what's happening there.
I'm actually lost for words, mate. It's reached the point where I ask you this question so often. I've asked you after pretty much bad result, where do we go from here? But I want, where do we go from here? Because today, to me, just felt like just a complete throwaway game. The game didn't matter in terms of the league because the league was away anyway, but you still want Celtic to win matches. You still want to see some promising signs. I didn't see any promising signs at all today. I didn't see one in that game. Where do we go from here ahead of Wednesday night?
Lennon seemed, until it's mathematically dead, Lennon and the rest of the people at Celtic seem to be clinging on to this belief that Celtic are going to win and run, and Rangers are going to lose every game between now and May. Which is just absurd. So I think they're just going to keep plugging away, trying to play the best team possible. For me, I would just be playing the youngsters at this point. To be frank with you, like it wouldn't be nice.
Could they have done any worse if he'd have played youngsters today? Could they have done any worse? Really?
No, and I mean, even against Hibs on Monday, we drew that match, but I wasn't particularly raging because I understand that it was difficult for some of those players coming into the team, like Cameron Harper, etc. But when we're actually just starting a lot of senior players who don't actually have a future at Celtic, then what is the point? What are we actually doing here? We're not developing youngsters, but we're not fielding a team that's really capable of doing anything. A lot of these players don't have a long-term future. We're just going through the motions. Someone at Celtic needs to realise that the club is going through the motions at the moment. I think the fans all realise that the fans have got their eyes wide open here, and have done for a while, I think. And we just need to see that kind of clarity coming from someone who's in a position to make decisions within the club. Neil Lennon needs to go. A lot of people need to go, but I think first and foremost we need to have some sort of optimism that there is change on the way at Celtic, and absolutely nobody from Celtic has communicated that over the last couple of months. And this mythical January review, time's ticking on in that. Will they address it? I've got my doubts. But we need to wait and see what happens over the next few days.
Yeah, when they put out that mention that they were going to do the January review, I think we were 11 or 12 points behind in the league. We're now in a situation where I've lost count, to be honest, but I think it's, we're well in 24 or something like that. Like, it's getting to absolutely silly stage. One of our games in hand comes on Wednesday at Livingston. I don't bet anyway, but I wouldn't be betting on Celtic to win that match. I think that's another tough one against a Livy side, even with all those players coming back into the fold. We as Celtic fans, like I just feel like it's death by a thousand cuts at the moment, and this whole season has been. We need something to happen that we can grasp at, and something that gives us a bit of belief about the future. And for me, the obvious thing is replacing the manager. That's the obvious thing. Listen, the league gone, the Scottish Cup's still there. We're not going to win that playing like we did today, of course, or how we've played over the last month. But if you get a new manager in, you give us something to be excited about. You give the players there that still want to be there something to get excited about and something to motivate them, because you're looking even at the players that played today, the likes of Callum McGregor, Jeremy Frimpong, who I thought was really poor. You're looking at those guys who would have probably started the game in normal circumstances without the Dubai call-offs, and they were terrible today. So that gives me no indication that even if we'd have had the proper team back, it would have been much better. But we need something to get excited about. Well, let me ask you a question just quickly, okay, John. See the likes of Odsonne Edouard and Ryan Christie, players like that are going to leave in the summer. Would any part of you consider selling them now and getting a wee bit more money?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's really difficult. It depends. I think the players themselves might want to move in the summer. There might be more options for them. There is a temptation to do that. I don't really see the point in hanging on to anyone right now that isn't going to be here for the long term. And whether that's some of our star players or it's some of our poor performing players, it doesn't really matter. A couple of months ago, a lot of people thought that, Lennon leaving and Kennedy taking over as caretaker was not an option. I would take that option tomorrow now. I wouldn't particularly be overjoyed at Kennedy being caretaker, but if Celtic are not in a position to appoint a permanent long-term view manager, then they need to still, I think Lennon just needs to go, because the fans need more. They need to see this team building. And I think Kennedy taking charge would at least give us something of a fresh start. I know it wouldn't be a complete fresh start. I'm not backing Kennedy for a long-term, position as manager of the club. But if we're not able to appoint a manager that we really need to, then I would take that tomorrow, because I'm at my wit's end with this team now. I just need to see something.
Stephen Fleming, Martin O'Neill, Roy Keane and John Park as head of recruitment. Got some bad news for you, Stephen. Unfortunately, the latter of those three has just got a job in Poland. Legia Warsaw, was it, John?
Yes.
He's gone to, so you can rule out John Park coming into the club. But yes, Stephen, when is it going to end? Hamish, when is it going to end? I keep telling myself that this can't get any worse, John. I keep telling myself, I suppose history tells us it can. It's just... it's grim. We go to Livingston now on Wednesday night for another tough game. I like your shout of even just getting Kennedy in.
I'm not overjoyed with that. That's not something that excites me at all. I just think we need some sort of clean break here, because this is just spiraling into further disaster and disaster. We're going from shambles to PR chaos to fan disorder to more fan protests, more fans having banners at the stadium. I think everyone would have a bit of breathing space if the club at least say, look, we've really messed up this season and we're really sorry for that. We're going to take a few months now to take stock of what we need to do. And in the meantime, we'll have Kennedy in place as caretaker. And he's been given the remit to perhaps give some game time to players who are going to be here for the long term at Celtic, and not give game time to players such as Shane Duffy, who've just got no future at Celtic. Why can't the club come out and say that? I mean, I honestly don't know.
They still, the club still believe they can win the league.
Well, if anyone inside Celtic still thinks Celtic can win the league, then they're stupid. They're stupid.
I'm sure that Peter Law is still waiting on this Rangers collapse. I am positive of it, that he still thinks this Rangers collapse is coming. He still thinks it's going to be all right. Maybe not after today's game. Maybe he's finally going to see sense after we failed to score against Livingston. But I did a video on Eddie Howe yesterday, and Eddie Howe's just a name. That may be not who Celtic are looking at, but he's a manager who's unemployed at the moment. I personally think, without knowing anything, that Eddie Howe may be excited about a chance at Celtic. You get him in now, you give him the rest of the season to work his plan out. It's just frustrating that this isn't going to happen. Right, I'll read a few comments. Yeah. Sorry, you come, mate. When you go.
I mean, not just on the Eddie Howe thing. I know you've done a video. I know that it's the idea, I think, rather than the man himself. I think that you're getting at with those types of videos. Yeah. Eddie Howe might be good, but it's the idea of a fresh, forward-thinking manager that excites me more than Eddie Howe himself. I don't think Eddie Howe wants the job, to be honest with you, but that's just my personal opinion.
Right, Brian's been in touch. He says it's good to see you back, John, despite the result. Brian's got a bit of a thing for you, John. I think you're his favourite out of all the 67 Hail guys. Barry McConaughey, I would like to see us start preparing for the future now. We need to completely rebuild and go again. Poor way to end our run, but things happen
100%.
For a reason. Dan Whitey's getting in touch. Never seen a club decline so fast.
You and me both, Dan.
There's a few other ones I saw there I've lost. There's another few comments here. Scotty, top tier will be closed next season. All the commercial money out of 10-year-old merchandise and corporate opportunity gone. Money running out. Bad. Mikey Moore saying Lennon must do the decent thing now, go and take the duds with him. Final comment, John, will we wrap up another horrible post-mortem?
Yeah, final comment is that there's no sitting on the fence anymore. The club need to come out and acknowledge that the season is over. The club need to come out and acknowledge that it's all gone pear-shaped and there's no way of digging ourselves out of it in terms of the Scottish Premiership, and they need to tell us what their plans are for the future. And if they tell us that's going to take a period of transition and there needs to be some sort of caretaker in place until they come to those decisions, then I would accept that at this point. But the club cannot keep pretending that we can win this league title because it's just causing more harm to Celtic.
Agreed. Right, John, thanks for your time once again. It is appreciated. Go and enjoy your Saturday night. Have a few beers or something, mate. Try and forget about this. That goes for all of you Celtic fans watching this. We appreciate you tuning in anyway. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you've not done it yet, and we'll speak to you very soon. Take care and hail, hail.